Gentlemen, call to order our emergency meeting on City Council of March 18th. Second item on our agenda is session possible action to adopt supplemental state of emergency proclamation in response to the COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic. Leroy, you want to start off?
The only thing I would do is on your agenda, under editor's notes for your all's reference, we put the state statute definition of emergency meeting, and then we put the notice required for an emergency meeting in case there was any questions on that. The 24-hour, 48-hour, of course, goes away for an emergency meeting. And then the authority of the city council to take this action if they chose to choose is state statute in Title 11, 12-20 under public health, hospitals, and quarantine. The governing body may make regulations to prevent the introduction of contagious diseases into the municipality and may enforce quarantine laws with 5 miles of the municipal limits. And then on the supplemental proclamation, what we have done is taking for your consideration as we were requested. The proclamation was adopted by Oklahoma City and Stillwater, and we incorporated that into the original proclamation that the mayor adopted the other day or proclaimed. And so in red are the new things, in black was from the mayor's proclamation. But to make it easy for you to see the changes, we put the additional or new items in red. And we did add a section on what the penalty would be if someone chooses to not abide by the proclamation. Be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions of Leroy from council?
Where did they get their rules?
I cannot tell you where they got their rules. I know that the thought process, and not every city is the same. There's some cities that are adopting this and some aren't. But I think what they've done is taken the recommendations of not having groups together, and from there expanded it to not having any meeting places open, whether it be church, restaurants, and it's just not having any groups to try to shave that peak as far as exposure and contagious spread of the coronavirus.
So they're not CDC recommendations?
CDC to this point is, to my knowledge, has recommended 50 or less, and 10 or less if you cannot ensure that you won't impact those that are more susceptible. Seniors, people with underlying health conditions. That is what my understanding is from CDC.
And the CDC, as I read through the website today, it has different regulations on you're susceptible to outbreak if you have large outbreak or no outbreak in your area or what have you. So it really varies. You can take it to extreme from the CDC if you have a breakout, or you can look at it from your level and seeing what breakout you have, which I printed from the CDC website. It updates every day at 4 o'clock, so unfortunately I printed it before 4 o'clock. But I did print it today to see where we stand. And Oklahoma as a whole, guys, we have 19 cases in Oklahoma, and we are in the 650 category, which is low.
I think it's 29.
Today,
29,
10 more.
No.
19 to 29.
Nearly.
No? I mean, there would be 40.
It's a 50% increase.
Go ahead.
50%, correct.
50% increase.
So my question,
I might point out that while they're good guidelines, even CDC is not mandatory. They are just guidelines
Sure.
as well.
sure. I guess my question is, are we closing Walmart, Love's? Are we close Cash Savers? Are we?
I think the difference between some of the things we're talking about here and, for instance, Walmart, is Walmart a source for supplies and services for a lot of different things, not just,
So you're telling me these?
let me finish, not just food, not just refreshments, but a lot of different things.
So the server that works at tables, and that's her only source of income, that's irrelevant in this?
Of course it's not.
So we're picking and choosing who?
Don't put words in my mouth.
No, I'm
It's not
asking the
irrelevant.
question.
It's not irrelevant.
Because we're picking and choosing who we're going to allow to stay open and who we're not. And I think that's within our authority, and I don't think it's our right. These small businesses, although one is offering loans, but that's the last thing they need at the end of this is now to have a loan to pay back. I've spoke with several of the small business owners today. They've called me because they don't want to be shut down. They still have livelihoods to make. They still have bills to pay. They still need to eat. They're there for a service. Definitely, let's be smart about this. Let's treat them like the adults that they are, allow them the opportunities to police themselves. Let's do some social distancing, just as we've done here. The stable's already said she's implementing where they're seating every other table. They don't have people on top of one another. That makes sense. But shutting them down, giving them no opportunity to make money, or if we just say you can do care only, well then that drastically reduces the workforce that she needs. Her people, these people cannot file for unemployment, and if she's not shut completely down, she's just left at being able to do curbside, she can't collect on her loss of income on her insurance.
But if we shut her down, Jay, if we shut her down totally,
Do you have a microphone?
I'm sorry.
Do you have a microphone?
No, but I've got a very strong voice. If we shut her down totally, can you hear me?
Turn it on.
Let's put it up, we can hear you.
It's for the,
If we shut her down totally, then her insurance will allow her to pay her employees. It will allow her to keep herself afloat. If we shut down totally. If we put her to where all she can do is take out delivery, that does her down. Then she really hurts her employee. I just talked to her on the way in here. Debbie.
And that's depending upon that everyone has that type of insurance,
That's
the ability to do that. Not everyone has that.
So let's talk about the server for a second. The server that's sitting next to, we'll use Steve in this instance, who has COVID-19 and doesn't know it because he hasn't been tested because nobody here has been tested. Okay? And all of a sudden she brings it home to mom, who is going to grandma's house. Now grandma has it and she dies.
We're adding to the
Okay,
pain.
that's the problem, James.
We're
It's
adding
called
to the pain.
containment.
You know what? I'm going to tell you a quick story. I was gym today. My gym was still open. And I was watching the news. And you know, there was first a news story, a newscaster reporting from a grocery store that havoc going on in the background, just creating more
I've seen
chaos.
that too.
And then right after that, and I don't know if it was on the Senate floor, I don't know if it was on the House floor, but the guy got up and said, please Americans, calm down. Quit racing to the hospitals. Not every facility has tests, and just because you've got a cough doesn't mean you have COVID-19. In fact, most places aren't even going to test for that. So unless you have other underlying health conditions, you're going to be just fine. You're going to live through it. The survival rate for those that don't have underlying issues is 1%. It's those that have underlying health issues. And so if you have underlying health, yes, please come get treatment at the hospital. What happened?
But
So-
you're missing the point. Little
No,
girl,
you're missing the point.
no, I'm not missing the point. The server didn't know Steve had it, okay? She got it. She doesn't feel it. Okay, she goes and gives it to mom, who mom's healthy doesn't have it. I mean, has it, but she doesn't feel it. Gives it to her mother, and she dies. Okay, that's the problem.
Contracted at Walmart.
Because she contracted it from Steve, who she was serving.
or Walmart.
or Walmart, or anybody else for that matter.
So we're picking and choosing again. We don't, I don't, in my good conscience, I can't make that decision. I can't say
So-
you can go contract it at Walmart, but you can't contract it at Stables.
So
Will you recognize somebody?
you need to recognize the lady in the audience.
Yeah. Have you signed any of the authorization?
No, I'm sorry, I did not. Do I need to sign
It's just
something?
outside.
It's right outside the door. Thank you.
It's a tough deal. all the
It
way
is,
across
we're
the
gonna
board.
have a
It's
signed
very
piece of
tough.
paper, and I don't
Nobody,
even know if we
nobody
write down
wants,
that
nobody wants
pen.
anything shut down, James, but let me throw this at you.
Let's not talk over each other.
Okay, but let me throw this in real quick, okay, just for the sake of argument. Look at the city that had, Austin, Texas, the entire city. Why did they do they know something we don't? Tulsa, okay, why did they just do a day? Do they know something that we don't? The whole state of Kansas, Chicago, LA, San Francisco, New York, everybody in between. They know that we don't. We're smarter than them, so that we say, okay, let's just go ahead and keep in life as it should be. I want to do that too. Okay, I do. But there comes a point in time, go research the Spanish flu. Okay? 500 million people caught that. 50 million died. They did nothing.
So again, if you don't have underlying health conditions, you will survive this too.
You will survive it. I'm not worried about me. I'm worried about my dad. I'm worried about their dad. I'm worried about the neighbor.
And those
Okay.
people are the ones that should quarantine them, should
Should.
stay home.
I agree.
Okay?
Yeah.
So
No
that
question.
doesn't mean you need to put everybody who's healthy in quarantine.
I don't think anybody's talking about quarantine, but I'll let.
We're we're just shutting them down. We're not allowing life to carry on. I mean, what are people supposed to do?
What the recommendation is a 15-day grace period is what our president said the other day, is that they were looking for. The scientists behind this, the data that they've done, all the numbers that they've run, they were looking for a 15-day gap, go in your living room and stay. That's what everybody. Unfortunately, people do have to eat, so there's going to be a food source somewhere, okay, unless they're coming to your house and getting it. Okay, they're going to have to go somewhere to buy the food.
I'm saying if you're not going to shut down Walmart, why are you going to shut down the Stables? If you're not going to shut down Love's, why are you going to shut down Stacy's Place? If you're not going to shut down these caterers, why are you going to shut down Hoboken?
I think that's a little apples and oranges. Ms. Looker, you wanted to speak. Identify yourself, address if you would, please.
I am Rebecca Luker. I live at 1016 West Ward, and I'm a small business owner. I absolutely agree with what James is saying. If you shut these businesses down for, what is the date? April the 9th, 11th or something? What day is that? Most of them will never open again. They can't last that long. Very few carry the type of insurance that will survive over that length of period, or have any kind of compensation if you're because of a illness or whatever. Very few people carry that type of insurance. It's extremely expensive, and small businesses can't afford it. I think that particularly the date that you have chosen to keep this going is arbitrary and capricious. I'm, by the way, 70, it is arbitrary and somewhat capricious. And I'm a 70-year-old woman who has just returned from New Orleans, taking a group of students. And we stayed through the end until Sunday evening. This area is not even one of the high impacted areas of the virus yet. And you are putting it forth some effort here that is going to last for almost 30 days. I think that is capricious. You don't know why you've decided that date. You don't have a good reason, I'm quite sure. Is there a legal reason,
We're
Mr.?
following the leader.
You're just following the
That's exactly
leader.
right.
And the leader is Oklahoma City,
Sure.
who, by the way, don't even have any drive-through clinics where you can be tested, although Tulsa has 3. and Stillwater, who will be back in operation on September 6th when the students return. So will Edmond and Norman all be back by April 6th. And you've chosen another 5 days down the road. I see.
There are lots of things that happen between now.
Then I think that if you are going to, I feel like this, of course, I don't want to see it happen at all. But I think that I certainly don't want to see going on as long as April the 11th. I think you'll see a lot of people shut their doors and never come back. I may be one of them. We're a week-by-week basis. And I hate to see what's going to happen to small businesses in Guthrie. Now, there's all this talk about checks coming from the government. They're not even supposed to arrive until the 11th of April. And they're not, I mean, who really is expecting that many of those? And small businesses may not even qualify. There's very known about what's going to be distributed. I think at least you go on a week-by-week basis on what you're going to shut down. And as far as shutting down now, right before a weekend, you couldn't be more tragic. Thank you.
One point of clarification, again, staff is just a resource. We're not telling city council to do or not to do as a resource. If you look at the recommendation from the CDC on not having gatherings of 50, they used an 8-week period, which is much longer. That takes you all the way into May. So April date.
Does have more than 50. I don't have 50.
Can I finish? Can I finish? But anyway, that is one date that 8 weeks long is what they predicted was the time frame it will take for this to run its course. So, and then if you use April 12th, then of course we use the May date for our facilities, parades, outdoor activities on parks, those kind of things. But if you'll notice on this one, we use April 12th, which is a shorter period. Just trying to provide some clarification of where some of the dates come from.
And clearly those dates that are in proposal are fluid, depending upon how active that virus is in our as well as in our state. We are in a position of prevention or minimizing the impact that the virus will have on our community. And we're responsible for trying to maintain as best we can the safety of the citizens of Guthrie. That's why this is before us.
Well, I also see that the CDC also gives us recommended strategies for employers to use now, and none of them are close your doors. Not a damn one of them say close your doors. Separate sick employees, encourage them to stay at home, perform routine environmental cleaning, but not say close your doors.
Okay. Any other comments by members of the council?
I'd like to say just
Okay.
one thing. I've been a small business owner, and I understand when small business owners do not have the backup of a big box store or something like that, or have not saved a tremendous amount of money, it's very hard on them financially. So this afternoon I've a few phone calls and spoken to a few people and was wanting to know what people in my area felt like, what were their ideas. And I had a lot of stay open for business and things like that. And the very last call that I spoke with gave me heartburn. Right now I'm just really torn, but that person said, do you want somebody miss a few days of work or have a little bit of a financial crisis, or do you want your mother to die? And I'm telling you guys, this is a hard decision when you've seen both sides of the page, because as a person that respects small business people and wants the city of Guthrie to survive, I feel very strongly that the decisions should basically be left with the business owner. Hopefully they have sense to make the right decision for their employees and their customers. And then on the other hand, when someone doesn't know that so-and-so that sits next to so-and-so that runs into so-and-so, I would not want to be the one responsible for the death of a person, but I stood up for what the CDC and my constituents here want. It's difficult.
Okay. Councilman Taylor?
I was just going to ask, how's this going to affect Brahms? Because Brahms is a grocery store / place to eat. So if we close, does that mean Brahms closes, or do they stay open because they're a grocery store?
Well, it's not a closure. I mean, they have the option of having drive-through, which they have.
Okay.
I was told that Brahms is closing internally at the end of today, and they'll have their drive-through open. I was just told that. I didn't verify it personally by going there. That's what they told a person I know today that went.
I think we have to on the sidecar.
The language that has been added in red, as I read through it, and I didn't, I've only read a couple different times, but one of the areas that I wasn't sure that was impacted here is the event center facilities, like American Legion Bingo, the VFW Bingo, for instance. Seems to me that they're hosting, you know, it's the same kind of thing we're trying to minimize, if not eliminate here. I don't know if this can be interpreted to include them or not. In fact, I think the VFW just had a bingo Tuesday.
Yes, they did.
And
I think section 12 would work.
okay, all right.
But they could be specifically added.
I just didn't know. I think it just seems to me that those are two areas, at least that those bingo opportunities are things that we have to try to, at least I would think we would want to try to minimize, if not eliminate, too.
I think I read where the Legion shut theirs down. I think I read somewhere that they've quit it during this time.
Okay,
I don't know about the VFW, but.
okay, all right. Well, I can see where that can be included in that section 12. Okay?
Is there an opportunity for self-policing among businesses, or do we have to decide one way or the other for sure?
I don't know what you mean by self-policing.
Doing as the CDC regulations, or taking it upon themselves to maybe provide for their employees, but make their own set of rules that does not permit close gatherings. And then I see here where fines could be imposed. Could that be a possibility? And allow them to stay open? Or is that just ridiculous? I'm thinking about it.
I'd be a lot more comfortable with the,
Self-policing.
well, maybe not even self. It was something, every other table or something like that, because the size of facilities that we have here in town, if you take out every other table, you're going to knock those gathering size down a whole lot. And there's going to be a lot of pain in this before it's over. And I can't just sit here and go, well, the SBA is going to give you money and let you make payments for 10 years when it's over. I'm no good on that.
You know, the thing that bothers me the most is that a lot of people, from I gathered this afternoon, honestly feel like that if we don't do something and someone dies because of our lack of responsibility, it doesn't look good. But yet I will sympathize with the business owners. I quite frankly am really having problems with this.
But again, when somebody gets it, I'm not saying it's their fault, but if they know they are a risk and they know they have underlying problems, they're probably not going to be going into one of these places anyway.
And nor should they.
And I don't know how we all of a sudden say that we have liability. We don't know that they didn't catch it at Walmart. We're still not addressed. I mean, do you know how many people are at Walmart?
Right.
More than 50?
The CDC now recommend no more than a maximum of 10. Isn't that their newest?
That's the president's statement.
The president's, not CDC's.
I believe that's
There's still more than 10. There's more than 50 people at Walmart. I don't understand. I mean, that's where people's going to touch everything.
I think what they're, from what I've seen, and I've watched a lot of it, so has everybody here, is that they're talking about gathering, okay, versus moving on. I think there's a big
It
difference
doesn't
there.
matter. No, there's not. If we're passing each other a sneeze and I have COVID-19,
I get it. I know.
You're just as at risk as if you sat at the restaurant and I sneezed.
I know.
Or the gas station.
You're
Or the
absolutely
gas
correct.
station.
You're absolutely right.
I just think this is asinine, people. I think that I think the world has taken those news medias to an extreme, and we want to live our lives in fear and not live and do the things that we're supposed to do. The CDC has given us guidelines. Again, nowhere does it say shut down. It just says wash your hands. You know, COVID-19 can be soap and water. If you're sick, stay at home. It blows my mind that it came this far. It really has. And I don't think that I'm smarter than anybody else, and maybe they do know something I don't. But again, the CDC, who is supposed to be all-knowing, or in regards to disease, not the mayor of New York City, it doesn't say shut it down anywhere. It says stop large gatherings. We've done that.
Keep your distance.
Keep your distance. We're doing that.
the challenge is this is a brand new frontier, and the medical people even recognize that. And you can infect others without having the symptoms visibly yourself.
Steve, I've had doctors tell me they think that COVID-19's been here since November.
I've been told that.
You know, so, I mean, and we have no way to prove that it was or that it wasn't.
Yeah.
But I'm also not one that I want to be on the receiving of shutting a business down that ends up staying permanently shut down, or keeping small businesses open in Guthrie. I mean, if we make that decision, that is on us. But if we choose not to make that decision, we haven't made anybody sick. We didn't.
We're not considering keeping Noy home. He comes to my house because I'm playing my radio too loud, and he sneezes. Are you liable?
No, that's a challenge.
Exactly.
That's a challenge that we're facing. Not just here, clearly.
I just don't, I don't think that it's right for us to make that call. I personally think that a lot of these municipalities are stepping their boundaries. And whether or not they are held accountable for it in any way or fashion, I don't know. That's not on me. That's on them. But for me personally, I can't make that. I don't feel like that's right for us to do. And it's because I know if we don't, we're not making anyone sick. We are forcing and suggesting people follow CDC guidelines. That's what we're at all of the restaurants, all of the bars. That's what we're asking everyone to do, is to follow CDC guidelines. Be smart. Wash your hands. Clean the tables. I don't know what else we should tell people. I mean, they're still humans. They're not in jail. They have rights. I want these businesses to continue to be open past this time. I mean, I think Becky's right. There may be some businesses, small businesses, that never open or may try to reopen and they struggle because they just don't have the cash reserves to get through it.
And hope that nobody forgets to wipe the tables down.
Bring your own
Stables.
antibacterial.
If you'd like to hear, I mean, I just got a deal from Stables that I'll read to you real quick, just because she asked me to. We all know her. Stables just asked that you shut the restaurant down completely to allow us to collect our insurance covers my loss of income and my payroll.
And that's the Stables, and she has insurance.
Again, don't shoot the messenger, I'm throwing this out there. And so it says,
You got to sign a sheet out there.
it says, I don't feel safe working and don't want my employees to face the risk. We can't get on to-go orders, and that's not sanitary, and no masks are available. Those are our thoughts.
Then I would
And
say that
so-
it's her choice to go ahead and shut her restaurant down if she so chooses. That's her choice. But I don't think it's right for us to make that choice for every other restaurant, because I had business owners contact me today and say they did not want to be shut down. Hoboken does not be shut down. So now we're gonna let the Stables make that decision for Hoboken.
I'm just reading something.
I understand, and I'm just conversing. It's just conversation.
Just there for input. Leroy?
Would you all like opinion?
Yes.
I think the first proclamation that we had, because it deals with public property and public right-of-ways, we were on sound ground. It concerns me when we start making rules that has to do with private commerce. And I think it's got to be a compelling reason for a unit of government to restrict business of private enterprise. If this was as bad as everybody says, why isn't our governor making a statewide proclamation doing these things instead of each city doing it?
Right.
Okay.
Our governor was caught on social media eating at a restaurant by.
Yeah. Well, that was a few days ago, and
Well,
I bet
still.
I bet he wishes he wasn't caught on that. Robert, you want to come and identify yourself, address, and you've got a few minutes to identify your comments.
Well, first of all, I think,
Bob, your name, address.
Rob Ferris, 2118 Gloria Place, Guthrie, Oklahoma, 73444.
Thank you.
I mean, I 100% agree with James. I do not think it's necessary to close this down. I think that we are already sitting at the other table. We sanitize everything with quaternary ammonia. I taught sanitation and safety for the state health department as well as for a college. And I still teach classes all over Oklahoma, for Oklahoma Restaurant Association. We're taking every possible precaution that we can. And I think that James put it very well. I mean, you can contract it anywhere you go. It's not just restaurants. You're not going to get it from one of the kitchens. Everyone I know is working diligently to avoid contaminating anything. This is probably the safest city to eat in Oklahoma right now. But going to Walmart, going to Love's, going to any of these other places, we need the same chance as the corporations. The corporations already have drive-throughs. They're already set up. They're already in people's minds that, that's where we get takeout. Sonic. I mean, these places are corporations. I mean, we're small business owners trying to make a living when we've already lost $30,000 over the last 6 weeks. We're already bleeding. So that's...
And you're offering takeout?
Yeah, we've always offered takeout, but I mean, we don't do it, nobody's going to come get a steak and takeout to celebrate. And we're a celebration place, and that's what we're here for.
Okay, at what point would you shut down?
Well, if I would shut down if there was some accurate proof that we were transmitting, or that people were transmitting here in Logan County. If they were transmitting...
So if there was a
virus,
positive case in Logan County, you would shut down?
I would need to know that it came from a restaurant, because it's
That's
going to be
all-
less
That
likely.
will be almost impossible to identify.
Sure will.
So,
I'm just
so
saying,
we
did you disinfect?
we just ignore if there's a positive Logan
Right.
County? We just ignore because we can't trace it to a restaurant?
Well, we can't trace a gas pump. Are you gonna buy gas on the way home? You grab that
Well, I'm
handle?
just saying, I'm going to ignore if we have a positive in Logan County.
I'll tell you what,
Just
I'll
let
agree
everybody
with you
just
if you
keep-
shut everything down. No Walmart, no Loves, no nothing. Shut everybody down, or you shut nobody down. You don't pick the winners and the losers.
Thank you, James.
Ron.
Same deal, Ronnie. Your name, address?
Ronnie Gage, 2324 Carl Street, Guthrie, on Gage's Steakhouse. I went to Walmart today and got my medicines and stuff, you know, you get within 60 people there. You're at my steakhouse, and I ain't gonna say nothing for Stables or nobody else, I'm saying for us. My tables are 8 foot apart. Nobody can get closer than 8 foot seating in my place, unless I want to sit on the bar, which I won't, but anyway. And plus, he's in there to eat last night, James was. I hope I can tell that. But they looked around, I'm sure, and saw that, you know, sitting over in the corner in the bar area, there was not a table within 30 feet of them that anybody sitting at. I had some in the other area, I mean, we wasn't real busy, but eating so many seats to where we don't even set every seat, every table. Other thing, her deal on Stables, Debbie, she better get her insurance out and check it a little closer, because I've done called my insurance, and the workman's, my insurance does not cover nothing.
Yeah.
They got fine print down there at the below, says that it will not cover what's going on with us now in the United States. So unless she's got a special policy, which I doubt,
Well,
because nobody else does.
No, I hear you. Let me,
So she better check with her insurance people and find out.
it said the only way that gets enacted if it's ordered by civil authority.
She better check into
I
that.
don't
That's
know.
not what I was
I'm not
told.
them.
All right. Thank you. Becca, you've been trying to get in here.
Well, I just want to agree with James. I'm really tired of having to compete all the time with large businesses, too. They have so much more money than we do. They have also lobbying power. And they have money to support candidates for their choice. That's what these small businesses are up against. All of these little businesses. And so you're going to opt for the big guy who has the money and has the political clout against poor people. And really, mostly Guthrie is poor people.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Just a minute. Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, what are the governor's recommendations on restaurants right now?
The last I'm aware is that the governor is saying to people, don't go to restaurants.
Not closing restaurants down.
That's the last I understand, and that's of early this morning.
Are you ready for a motion?
Pardon?
See, but
Are you
before
ready, motion?
Before you do that, though, the big thing is not one person in this room's been tested, not one. So nobody in here knows if you're even carrying this thing right now. You just got back from Louisiana.
Nor can I be tested.
Or can you be tested? Until the testing's available. I get that, but the point Rebecca, the point I'm trying to make is that, I'm trying to make a point. The point I'm trying to make, Rebecca, is nobody in this entire town has been tested, okay? And that's a fact. And so, no, you don't know. I could be sitting right next to you right now and have it. I could have just gave it to you. You don't know. Okay, that's the only issue. Okay, and so originally this whole thing was take a 2-week break, take a 2-week breather, and then get on back to business. I don't know where the 2-month thing comes from. I think that's a federal government thing that keeps getting longer and longer and longer and longer. I'm a proponent of, and here's what I'm a proponent of. I'm a proponent of a 2-week deal. I'm a proponent of 2 months. I never have been.
The CDC, you're confusing it. The 2 months is for public gatherings. That's what the CDC has said.
I'm talking, and this thing right here is a lot more than 2 weeks. Okay, so of the closing of the restaurants and stuff is more than 2 weeks. I'm a proponent of putting this motion into positive ordinance to where the mayor has the ability to do this. Maybe it's not right now. Maybe we do look at it when the cases start coming so we don't have to revisit this again.
Then we come to it collectively, because I'm not giving that authority to person. And I think that we asked for staff's recommendation, and he said what we put out already puts us on solid ground. So why we're here today, I think, is because somebody got scared and watched the news and got scared. That's why we're here. Just follow CDC guidelines, Brian, with your hands.
James, you're speaking to the choir.
I don't think that I am.
Yeah, well, you are.
Because you want to shut them down.
I'm taking care of some elderly people.
You want to shut them down.
I'm not saying I want to shut anybody down. I don't want nobody to get shut down.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, I don't want anybody to get it and transfer it over to an elderly person that dies either.
When you're dealing with your dad, before you go deal with him, you should follow CDC guidelines. You should wash hands.
I do.
You should wash your hands. You shouldn't cough in
I don't need to be
him.
schooled, James.
I'm just saying,
you don't
Brian.
need to school me.
Okay.
It doesn't need to happen.
Then why
So
are we
let's shut
talking
that
about
down.
your dad?
Mr. Mayor,
Okay.
All right.
I'd like to make a motion that we simply adopt the state's requirements on this, go on and take the city out of it altogether.
The state requirements are what is in that deal.
No, it is not.
No, it
If
is
the
not.
state
No, it is
requires
not.
us to shut restaurants down, I think they do just that, right?
No.
Whatever the state's requiring, I think the city just adopts that and takes us, why do we have to be part of this?
The word is requiring. They're not requiring.
They're the ones that have the pros. We don't have any pros. So how can we supersede or undercut whatever the CDC tells us?
Well, I think we're already.
Why don't we
under a
just
state
adopt what this says and go on? That's my motion, if anyone will second it.
Aren't we already under a state adopted deal?
There's a state declaration of emergency, but it has specific guidelines as to restaurants closing, in-group dining, it makes some recommendations on spacing, those kind of things, but it doesn't give any specifics, similar to Stillwater, the other cities adopt.
Okay, so technically, we have a motion and a second before us, and the motion is to adopt.
Explain this motion again real quick.
To adopt state requirements on the coronavirus. And simply go on.
Requirements or recommendation?
Recommendation. Both, actually.
Well, I bet you want to do the
do
recommendations
both.
because that closes the restaurants. On the recommendations, they don't want restaurants.
But they're not requiring.
I know they're not requiring them to shut down, but that's what they're saying. That's what they're saying.
I think what you're asked, honestly, and I know you've got a motion, you've got a second, and I think we should, as far as discussion-wise, I think a little confusing. I think that probably with what we currently already have, Jim, already keeps the guidelines of the state. It doesn't put us on any rocky soil. We can ask Leroy again to confirm what we currently have already put in place is on firm foundation. What we're trying to do puts us a little far out there. And I think that if we would just,
Go any further than what the state's asking us to do, that's all I'm saying.
and I get that, but I know that that's not what's written on this paper for us to vote on, so it's,
Now, we're voting on what I brought up.
but I don't, that's.
But there's nothing we can even look at to
That's
vote
not
on.
an agenda.
Were you saying that you're going to vote on somebody's thought?
Requirements, regulations, requirements, whatever, on coronavirus. Why does our city have to do something different than what, I mean, we can adopt it now, blanket form, going forward, and we don't have to visit this again.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, go ahead.
The motion that's been made is not on the agenda. We have a very limited agenda as an emergency meeting, and that's not an agenda item. So for that point, I hope that motion can be adopted today.
Then I'll make a
So you're saying
motion.
the only motion that can be made is specifically with the draft that's in front of us?
So we either need to,
Table it until we have a chance to do.
And
no, I don't think we
and I'll
table
second
it.
that.
No, I think it needs to be until, if we're going to do anything, we're not just going to squelch it. We need to at least look, okay, it's like Robert said, so if you got one case out here, what if you got a dozen cases?
But we
What if
could-
they all, let me finish, please, for a second. And what if they all came from Guthrie? Okay, then are we a proponent to enact something? I don't know, okay? You know, what are you going to do? Police people from walking up and down on the sidewalks? I'm not going to do that.
Wait a minute.
Go ahead.
Okay. First of all we're doing is adopting state requirements at this time. We don't have to take any action. I would think that there's no action needed. Is that correct?
That was a motion that was
Yeah, because that's
determined.
already in place.
Just a minute. That was a
Right.
motion that was
Right.
made, that was determined to be not within the
Right.
agenda that we are following.
But I think what she's trying to say is we have to follow state guideline. We can't do something outside of state law.
No,
Well,
what I'm
but-
saying, if we
Just a
choose to
minute,
follow
Brian.
state guidelines, we really should not have any action taken
Correct.
this evening.
Correct.
But if we want to be able to give the mayor the authority to do something further, if it so warrants it, how can we word it so that it follows the state as it's changed?
Well, we can table it, is what we can do, and then come back and look at this exact verbiage another time down the road.
I hate to table it, all of this. Billy, what's the requirement there for being able to continue following the state guidelines and giving the mayor the authority, if the state changes their guidelines and declares further emergency, that we would follow suit?
It wouldn't require any action by this body because that's state basis policy.
Right.
We're bound by it anyway, so there's no additional action that we require.
Okay, so we
Yeah.
could, in theory, accept the way the state lays it out and move on. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And no action on this.
And then include any future developments that the state hands down.
Yes.
Okay.
And the action on that, there would be no action.
Right. Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Well, we do technically have a motion and a second
But it's not on the agenda.
to table, excuse me, to table.
Which you can do that. It's
Okay.
an agenda item.
Or you withdraw. Or you
Yeah,
can withdraw your
Or you
motion.
can withdraw your motion. And we just follow state guidelines.
Because we're already following them.
Withdraw your,
Second. Your second motion.
You can withdraw the tabling you want.
because we're already following state guidelines.
I think we follow the state.
So you're withdrawing your table.
I'm missing something.
You know, my concern here, and one of the why I asked Rob, at what point do you take the additional step of closing? And you identified if there was an active case in Logan County. My concern is how do we get ahead of this thing, protect our citizens the best that we possibly can? And when there is one active case that's been identified, there could be 100 that are already infected. And yes, they could be from Walmart, they could be from any place, but how do we minimize it?
Robert?
I just want fair treatment. Action would be to table
have to follow the state guidelines. But if we table it, and if our situation is unique or gets more serious, then we could always bring it back up at another.
That's exactly right.
And do what we need to do at the local level. But until it's put back on another agenda at a later date, we would just follow the first proclamation we put out on public places and follow the guidelines set by the state and by federal government.
Okay, if I understood Billy correctly, if we just follow the state guidelines as they're put out to us, we don't have to do anything here at all.
Unless you want to do something restrictive.
Okay. So after,
I want to ask business owners that are here, is that acceptable? I mean, is that something that works for everybody? They look at it again, if it just starts getting to a pandemic in Guthrie, then everybody knows it's time to shut it down. Yeah.
Another way to do that, though, Brian, is people.
The governor's probably gonna, he may do it anyway. Who knows when he's gonna do it?
The thing about it is, grade school kids, we're adults. People that's adults have enough common sense about themselves. Stay home. Don't go out in this public if you're worried about getting this disease or getting sick. Stay home.
Right.
That don't mean if you want to go out there and eat tonight, or I want to go eat somewhere, I'm going to do it. I'm not scared. I'm 71 years old almost. You know, age.
So are you guys good with tabling it? So
Yes, we will.
Check it out down the road.
I've got kids up there now, Cloroxing and doing all kinds of stuff, make sure everything's clean. I'm doing that after every table. I'm going to be doing it before we open, through the whole work. I mean, we're going to go out above board to make sure that this is clean.
Got a motion and a second to table it. Let's do the vote and be done.
did you get clarification on where we are? Right now, we are at a motion to table, and then Jeff had seconded that. Is there any other discussion? All in favor of the motion to table the drafted declaration, raise your hand. I'm just talking about city council here.
Did everybody raise their hand?
Okay, thank you. All opposed, same sign, which it was a unanimous vote to table this by all the members of the city council. I appreciate the input. I hope you all appreciate that the responsibility that we have look at all of the community and to try to safeguard all of the community as best possibly can. As Brian said, none of us want to shut down any business, but we do want to try to ensure the health and safety, as you business owners do too. We understand that.
Mayor, a lot of businesses have stopped big events. I mean, we're doing our part as well. We're trying to get down the numbers.
Yeah, we see that.
I understand, and we salute you for that, and we salute you.
But we do realize the governor may come in and make this all a moot point anyway, and then we still have to stick by one another somehow or another.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are through with our agenda items. Thank you.